Ladies, if you've ever found yourself wondering whether the man you're with is truly over his ex, you're not alone. It's one of those questions that can hang over a relationship like a shadow, creating doubt and uncertainty. But today, we're going to clear up that confusion. We're going to talk about how to tell if he's genuinely moved on or if his heart is still stuck in the past. One of the most telling signs that a man has truly moved on from his ex is that he doesn't bring her up in conversations anymore. When he's still emotionally attached to his past relationship, his ex will often slip into his discussions, whether it's about things they used to do, places they went, or memories they shared. It may seem harmless at first, just a casual mention of something that happened in the past. But over time, it reveals a deeper attachment to that relationship that hasn't fully dissolved. The past is, in many ways, a lingering presence in our minds, especially after a significant relationship. It takes time to heal and come to terms with what was lost. However, once a person has truly let go of their ex, their mind no longer lingers in that space. The emotional ties loosen and the memories, once prominent, fade into the background. For a man who is genuinely over his ex, his focus naturally shifts toward the present and future. He stops referencing her because his emotional energy is no longer directed towards someone who is no longer part of his life. If you find that a man consistently mentions his ex, whether it's in a positive or neutral light, it's a sign that he has not fully moved on. Even if he's talking about the good old days or recounting stories of times they spent together, it suggests that he's still processing emotions related to that relationship. This could manifest in a way where even during moments that are supposed to be about you two, he finds ways to bring her up. Maybe he talks about her interests, her habits, or what she used to do. He might tell stories that start off seeming innocent, but eventually reveal that he's comparing you to her or holding on to the idea of what that relationship once was. In contrast, a man who is truly over his ex will no longer see the need to refer to her in everyday conversation. He may acknowledge the past if it's relevant, but he won't dwell on it or use it as a benchmark for how things should be now. When he speaks about past relationships, it will be matter of fact, without any emotional weight or attachment. He recognizes that the past is just that, the past, and it doesn't need to dictate his present behavior or future decisions. When a man stops talking about his ex, it shows emotional maturity. He knows that to fully commit to someone new, he has to be emotionally available and present. By refraining from mentioning his ex, he is making space for the relationship to grow without the interference of past baggage. This is a clear indication that he is ready to invest in something real, something that is no longer clouded by comparisons or unresolved feelings. His focus is on you and what the two of you share, not on something that ended a long time ago. It's important to note that the absence of his ex in conversation doesn't mean that he's erasing his past or pretending it never happened. Everyone has a history. And part of being healthy in a new relationship is acknowledging that history when it's necessary, without letting it take over the present. However, for someone who's truly moved on, their past will become just a part of their story, a chapter that has been closed. A man who has let go will no longer find himself accidentally bringing up his ex in casual discussions. He won't feel the need to remind you of who she was or what she did. Instead, he will be focused on getting to know you, understanding your personality, and building a meaningful connection with you. His mind will be clear of the past, leaving room for you to create new, exciting memories together. If he is still regularly mentioning his ex, this becomes a major red flag. It's not just a sign of nostalgia or an innocent slip of the tongue. It's a deeper reflection of his emotional state. He might still be sorting through unresolved feelings or may not yet be ready to let go of the past. In such cases, you may find yourself in the awkward position of being constantly compared to someone who is no longer part of his life. This creates an emotional distance that's hard to overcome and it makes it difficult for the relationship to progress. In short, a man who has fully moved on will stop bringing up his ex because his heart and mind are no longer anchored in that past relationship. He recognizes that there is no benefit in continually revisiting something that no longer serves him. Instead, he directs his energy toward building a present and future that includes the woman he's with, now someone who deserves his full attention, free from any lingering attachment to someone else. A man who has truly moved on from his ex will no longer let his past define his present or future. When someone is emotionally attached to their past, they tend to carry the weight of that history into their current life. This can manifest in many ways, such as using past experiences as an excuse for current behavior, comparing new relationships to old ones, or letting past pain dictate how they approach future opportunities. A person who is still holding on to their ex will often be emotionally stuck, unable to move forward with full commitment to a new relationship. However, when a man has genuinely healed from his past and is ready to embrace a new future, he will no longer let his history shape his present. The past is a powerful force that holds memories, lessons, and sometimes unresolved emotions that can impact how we see ourselves and others. When someone hasn't fully processed their past relationship, it tends to seep into their current interactions. They may talk about their ex in a way that's either nostalgic or negative, as if they're still trying to make sense of what happened. The past can also manifest in subtle actions like avoiding certain topics, places, or activities that remind them of their ex. This is a form of emotional baggage that weighs down the individual and prevents them from being truly open and available for new experiences and relationships. However, a man who is over his ex won't be using the past as an emotional crutch. He will have learned from his previous relationship, but it won't define how he sees himself moving forward. He understands that his past mistakes, heartbreaks, and growth experiences are just parts of who he is. They have shaped him, but they no longer control him. Instead of holding on to old pain or bitterness, he uses those experiences to become a better person in the present and a better partner in the future. This mindset allows him to engage with life and relationships in a healthy, mature way. When a man is emotionally free from his ex, his current behavior reflects his growth. He will no longer use the past as an excuse for not committing, for not being vulnerable, or for avoiding deep emotional connections. He understands that he deserves a future that's free from the constraints of past relationships. Rather than focusing on what went wrong or what he could have done differently, he shifts his attention to what he can create in the present. He's focused on building a life and relationship that aligns with who he is now, not who he was when he was with his ex. This shift in perspective allows him to approach new relationships with a sense of openness and trust. He no longer sees new partners through the lens of past disappointments. For example, if his previous relationship ended because of betrayal or a lack of trust, he will not project that hurt onto his current partner. Instead of assuming that history will repeat itself, he will give his current relationship a chance to thrive on its own merits. He understands that the person standing in front of him is not the same person as his ex, and he treats her as such. A man who is over his ex will also be able to forgive himself and let go of any guilt or shame associated with the end of his past relationship. Sometimes, when a relationship ends, people carry feelings of failure or regret, questioning what went wrong, or blaming themselves for the breakup. This emotional weight can carry over into new relationships, making it difficult to fully invest or trust again. But a man who has moved on from his ex will have processed those emotions and will no longer allow them to hold him back. He'll be able to love himself fully and give the same level of love and commitment to someone new. He will also stop comparing his new partner to his ex. In the early stages of dating, it's normal to make comparisons. People often measure new experiences against what they've known before. However, if a man is still emotionally attached to his ex, he will constantly be measuring the woman he's with now against his past relationship. Whether it's in the way she looks, acts, or behaves, comparisons will pop up, and this prevents him from truly appreciating who she is as an individual. A man who has moved on the other hand, will embrace the uniqueness of his new partner and will not feel the need to compare her to anyone from his past. The ability to let go of the past and not allow it to define the present or future is a critical part of emotional maturity. When a man has genuinely moved on, he shows emotional resilience. He understands that his past relationship, while significant, is just one chapter in his life. He does not let it determine his future or limit his potential for new connections. Instead, he chooses to write a new story, one that is shaped by his present mindset and his desire to create something fresh and meaningful in his life. When a man has truly moved on from his ex, he will be open to building a future with someone new. The past may have shaped him, but it no longer holds him back from the possibilities that lie ahead. This openness to a future together is one of the clearest signs that he has emotionally and mentally moved on from his ex. A man who is still emotionally attached to his past relationship will struggle to look ahead and may even avoid talking about the future in a relationship. He might still be processing pain or disappointment, making it difficult for him to fully invest in someone else. In contrast, a man who is over his ex will have the emotional space to focus on what comes next. He's not held captive by memories of the past or by what didn't work out. Instead, he's actively thinking about the future, your future together. He'll engage in conversations about long-term plans, whether it's talking about future trips, career goals, or where he sees himself in the coming years. His eyes will be focused forward, and the idea of building something together will excite him rather than create hesitation or fear. When a man is ready to look ahead, he will want to know more about your future as well. He'll be asking questions about your dreams, your ambitions, and where you see yourself in the years to come. He won't just be passively waiting for things to unfold. He'll be actively involved in the process of creating a shared life with you. This kind of focus on the future means that he's emotionally available and ready to build a meaningful relationship. He wants to know that both of you are on the same page when it comes to your desires for the future, whether it's about your personal growth, your relationship dynamics, or even the practicalities of living together. This openness to a future together goes beyond just conversations. A man who is emotionally free from his ex will also begin making decisions that reflect his commitment to the future. This can include planning activities that involve long-term commitments, such as moving in together, traveling together, or even making bigger decisions like financial planning or career changes. These decisions are steps that signify his willingness to create a future with Yuan that's distinct from his past. A man who is truly over his ex will not let past heartbreaks or disappointments prevent him from taking risks in a new relationship. Relationships require vulnerability, and when someone has been hurt in the past, they may have a natural tendency to protect themselves from getting hurt again. However, when a man is ready to move forward, he will be willing to take those risks again. He'll be open to putting himself out there, investing emotionally, and giving his heart to someone new, despite the fear of potential hurt. He recognizes that love involves risk, but the potential rewards far outweigh the fear. A man who has truly moved on will also be open to change. He understands that he's not the same person he was during his past relationship, and he embraces the idea of growth. He'll want to evolve with his new partner and build a life that is different from his previous experiences. This openness to change is a powerful sign that he's ready for the future because he's not trying to recreate the past. Instead, he's looking to create something new, something that reflects the lessons he's learned and the person he's become. His ability to think about the future also indicates a deep level of emotional maturity. He understands that being emotionally available and invested in a new relationship requires letting go of old attachments, He knows that he can't fully embrace a new relationship if he's still holding on to old wounds, regrets, or comparisons. By focusing on the future, he shows that he has worked through those emotions and is now ready to give his all to a relationship that's rooted in the present. When a man is truly ready to build a future, he'll be proactive in making that future happen. He'll take steps to create shared goals, contribute to building a healthy relationship, and make decisions that align with the vision he has for both of you. The focus will be on creating something lasting, not just a fleeting connection. He'll be eager to share his life with you and excited about what the future holds together. This willingness to plan, build, and dream of the future together is a clear indicator that he's emotionally available and ready to let go of the past in favor of what's ahead. One of the most important indicators that a man is over his ex is when his actions consistently align with his words. A man who is still emotionally attached to his past relationship might say the right things, but his behavior may not match. He may tell you that he's ready for something new, or that he's open to building a future with you, but his actions speak otherwise. Perhaps he's distant, or you notice that he's not as invested as you are. He might show a lack of effort, or you may sense that his mind is still elsewhere, not fully present in the relationship. A man who is over his ex, on the other hand, will ensure that his actions reflect his words. This alignment of words and actions speaks to emotional integrity. A man who is truly over his ex will have taken the time to reflect on his past relationship, process his emotions, and healed. He knows that words alone are not enough to build a meaningful connection. What truly matters is the consistency between what he says and what he does. If he talks about commitment, but then avoids discussions about the future, or if he says he values honesty but is evasive about his feelings, it's a clear sign that his actions are not matching his words. When a man is fully over his ex, there will be no room for mixed signals or half-hearted efforts. His actions will clearly demonstrate that he is emotionally ready to move forward. When his words and actions align, it shows that he is not just telling you what you want to hear, but that he is genuinely invested in the relationship. He will take concrete steps to prove his commitment. For example, if he says he wants to spend more time with you, he will follow through by making plans and prioritizing you in his life. If he expresses his desire for a future together, he will show that by introducing you to important people in his life or by discussing shared goals and dreams. His actions will reflect a willingness to put in the effort required to build something meaningful with you without hesitating or holding back. This consistency also reveals emotional maturity. A man who is over his ex will no longer shy away from being vulnerable or putting in the effort required to make a relationship thrive. He will understand that building trust, respect, and intimacy requires consistent effort over time. He won't expect the relationship to thrive on words alone, but will demonstrate his commitment through his behavior. When his words align with his actions, you can trust that he is genuinely moving forward and is emotionally available for a new relationship. Moreover, a man who is ready to invest in a relationship will take accountability for his actions. If something goes wrong or he makes a mistake, he will own up to it and work to correct it. Rather than making excuses or deflecting blame, if he says he values open communication, he will make an effort to address issues and talk about difficult topics even if it's uncomfortable. This sense of accountability is a key factor in whether he's truly over his ex. Someone who is still emotionally entangled with their past relationship might struggle with taking responsibility for their actions, often due to fear of repeating past mistakes. But a man who has genuinely healed from his past will approach challenges in a relationship with a sense of maturity and a desire to move forward, not backward. When a man's actions align with his words, it also shows that he is in tune with his emotions. He has a clear understanding of what he wants and is no longer conflicted or uncertain about his intentions. He will be able to express his feelings openly and authentically without being guarded or hesitant. Whether he's expressing affection, talking about his aspirations, or discussing how he sees the relationship evolving, his words will be matched by consistent, genuine actions that reinforce those feelings. This alignment builds trust. Trust is not built on empty promises or superficial gestures. It is built on consistent actions that show someone is committed, reliable, and emotionally available. A man who is over his ex will not only speak about his intentions, but will also prove them through his behavior. He will show you, through his actions, that he is ready to fully invest in you and your relationship with no lingering attachments or distractions from the past. His commitment to the present will be clear and unwavering. A man who is truly over his ex will not be in contact with her anymore. The emotional attachment from a past relationship often creates lingering connections. And for some, staying in touch with an ex can feel like a way to maintain some sense of closure or comfort. However, a man who has genuinely moved on understands that staying connected with his ex isn't healthy for him or his current relationship. He recognizes that any form of ongoing communication could reopen old wounds, stir unresolved feelings, or create unnecessary complications. Instead, he prioritizes his present and future, which means cutting ties with his past, especially in a way that could potentially interfere with building something new and meaningful with you. This isn't just about a refusal to talk to his ex, it's a broader sign of emotional maturity. When a man is still emotionally attached to his ex, he might hold on to the idea of keeping her in his life, whether it's through occasional texts, social media interactions, or sporadic meetups. He may justify these actions by telling himself that they can remain friends or that there are lingering ties they need to work through, such as shared responsibilities or mutual friendships. While there may be some situations where staying in contact with an ex is necessary, for example, co-parenting or shared work-related matters, a man who is truly over his ex will recognize that these connections are best kept to a minimum and handled with boundaries. His priority will be fostering a healthy, undistracted connection with you. A man who has let go of his past relationship will not want to keep lines of communication open with someone who no longer plays a role in his emotional life. He'll know that maintaining such contact only serves as a reminder of what he's left behind, and it can impede his ability to invest fully in someone new. It also shows respect for the person he's with now. If he's still regularly messaging, calling, or engaging in conversations with his ex, it sends the message that there is still an emotional connection to someone else, leaving the current relationship in a state of limbo. A man who is over his ex, however, will make a clear distinction between his past and present, and that will be reflected in his actions by completely cutting off any unnecessary contact with his ex. Cutting contact with an ex is a sign of someone who values emotional integrity. It demonstrates that he has moved past any residual feelings of guilt, anger, or sadness that may have kept him tied to the past. He's no longer holding on to any hope of reconciliation or lingering emotional attachment. He recognizes that in order to move forward, he must sever those connections, allowing himself the space to heal fully and invest in a healthy relationship without distractions. His focus will be entirely on the present, not the past. This decision also speaks to his emotional availability. If he's still in contact with his ex, it could signal that he's not fully available to invest in a new relationship. Emotional availability requires a person to be open and present in the moment without any emotional baggage holding them back. A man who continues to communicate with his ex is essentially sharing his emotional energy in two different directions, and this divided attention can affect his ability to build a strong, focused connection with a new partner. When he's over his ex, his emotional energy is directed solely toward the present, leaving no room for anything that could hinder or complicate that connection. When a man has completely moved on, he will make it clear to his ex that they are no longer part of his life in a personal way. Whether it's through ceasing contact altogether or putting up healthy boundaries, he will make it known that he is in a different phase of his life. This action shows that he is not interested in revisiting the past, but is instead committed to his future. The relationship he has with you now will take priority, and by cutting off communication with his ex, he is demonstrating his respect for the boundaries of your relationship and his willingness to protect it from any outside interference. In contrast, if a man is still talking to his ex regularly, it's a red flag. It suggests that he's still emotionally tied to her, even if he doesn't fully acknowledge it. These interactions may be subtle or seemingly harmless, but they create an emotional disconnect between him and his current partner. Even if he says he's over his ex, the continued contact sends a contradictory message. It might not be about rekindling a romantic relationship with her, but rather about not letting go emotionally, which ultimately keeps him from fully being present in his current relationship. A man who is over his ex will understand the importance of cutting those ties for the sake of emotional clarity, growth, and the health of the relationship he is currently in. When a man is over his ex, he will stop comparing his new partner to his past relationship. This is an important sign because it shows that he has fully accepted the end of his previous relationship and is ready to embrace a new connection without letting the past influence his present. Comparing his new partner to his ex is a behavior rooted in emotional attachment and unresolved feelings. If a man is still hung up on his ex, he may unconsciously measure his new partner against her, holding her to the same standards or projecting the same expectations. This creates an unfair and unrealistic dynamic in a relationship where the new partner is constantly judged through the lens of a past that no longer exists. When a man is truly over his ex, he will no longer make those comparisons. He will see his new partner for who she is, not as a replacement or an attempt to fill the void left by his past. He will be able to appreciate her uniqueness, her qualities, and the things that make her special without trying to compare them to someone else. He understands that no two people are the same and that each relationship brings its own dynamics and lessons. Comparing a new partner to an ex only prevents him from fully enjoying the potential of the new relationship. When a man is emotionally free from his ex, he is open to discovering new things and creating new experiences that aren't overshadowed by past memories. A man who has moved on from his ex will also stop using the past as a benchmark for how to handle his current relationship. In a previous relationship, there may have been certain patterns, dynamics, or ways of dealing with issues that have shaped how he views love and commitment. If he is still emotionally tied to his ex, he may unconsciously carry over these behaviors and expectations, thinking they will work in the new relationship. For example, if he experienced a lot of conflict in his previous relationship, he might anticipate the same type of drama or tension in a new one, even when no such issues are present. This can lead to unnecessary stress or misunderstandings, as the new partner might feel like she is being unfairly judged or put in the same box as someone from the past. When a man is over his ex, he will recognize that each relationship is unique and requires its own approach. He will be more willing to communicate openly, to address issues as they arise, and to trust that the new relationship can stand on its own merits. He will not bring baggage from the past into the relationship, and he will allow space for it to develop in a healthy and positive way. This is an important sign of emotional maturity because it shows that he understands the importance of being present and responsive to the person he is with. Rather than relying on past experiences to shape his behavior, a man who is over his ex will also stop using comparisons as a way to validate his own feelings or actions. If he is still emotionally attached to his ex, he may feel the need to constantly check if his current relationship measures up. This can create insecurity, jealousy, or even frustration, as he may feel like he's constantly searching for a reason to justify why he's chosen to move forward. But when a man is truly over his ex, he will feel secure in his decision to pursue a new relationship and will no longer feel the need to measure it against anything or anyone else. He will be comfortable in his own skin and confident in the choices he has made, knowing that the past is in the past and the present is what matters. When a man is no longer comparing his new partner to his ex, it's a clear sign that he is ready to move forward. He has worked through his emotions, processed the end of his previous relationship, and let go of any attachments that could prevent him from being fully present in a new relationship. This is not to say that the past will not have any impact on him. Everyone is shaped by their experiences. However, a man who is over his ex will have learned from the past and will not let it dictate how he views or interacts with his new partner. He will embrace the new relationship with an open heart and mind, free from the shadow of his past. When a man is truly over his ex, he will stop bringing up his past relationship in conversations, whether consciously or unconsciously. This can be a significant sign that he has let go of the emotional ties and the baggage that often accompany a past romance. If a man is still hung up on his ex, he may find himself frequently referencing her in conversations, even when it's unnecessary. He might talk about the things they did together, the arguments they had, or how she used to handle certain situations. At first glance, it might seem like an innocent comparison or a way to share a part of his past, but if he's constantly bringing her up, it suggests that he hasn't fully detached from his previous relationship. He may be subconsciously seeking validation for his past choices or comparing his current partner to the memories of his ex, which keeps the past alive and prevents him from moving forward. However, a man who is genuinely over his ex will no longer feel the need to talk about her. He may acknowledge the past when necessary, especially if it's relevant to certain conversations, but it won't be a regular topic of discussion. He won't feel compelled to bring up his ex's name or their past experiences unless it's in a very specific context. This shows that he has emotionally closed that chapter of his life and is focused on the present and future rather than living in the shadow of what once was. He will recognize that constantly referencing his ex only prevents him from forming a deeper connection with his new partner. It becomes a way of keeping emotional distance even if he doesn't realize it. When a man has moved on, he will also be more mindful of how his current partner feels when these topics arise. He understands that bringing up an ex too often can create discomfort, insecurity, or even resentment. If he is emotionally mature and truly over his ex, he will actively work to avoid causing unnecessary tension by steering clear of conversations that might remind his partner of a relationship that has no place in the current one. This awareness and consideration for his new partner's feelings is a clear sign that he is emotionally available and ready to focus on the present relationship. In contrast, a man who hasn't fully healed or moved on will inadvertently bring his ex up in discussions. It may not even be intentional, but the fact that he can't resist doing so indicates that he has not fully detached emotionally. He might make offhand remarks about how things were with her or reference moments from their time together. Even if he insists that he's over her, these frequent references can betray his true emotional state. It shows that there are still unresolved feelings and that he is not fully committed to creating new experiences with his current partner. Every time an ex is mentioned, it undermines the possibility of a fresh start and disrupts the flow of the present relationship. A man who is truly over his ex will also understand that his new partner deserves his full attention and energy. He will want to share his thoughts, experiences, and feelings with her, not his past. He will be focused on creating new memories together rather than rehashing old ones. When a man continues to talk about his ex, it suggests that he has not made a clear emotional break from the past, and this can hinder the development of a new, healthy relationship. Every conversation that revolves around his ex is an opportunity lost to bond with his new partner, to create a shared history that belongs to just the two of them. A man who has emotionally let go of his ex will be more open and vulnerable with his new partner. He won't feel the need to hold back parts of himself, as he is no longer tethered to the emotional weight of a past relationship. The act of bringing up his ex repeatedly can often be a way of deflecting or avoiding vulnerability. It's easier to talk about someone else's relationship than to open up about one's own feelings, especially if there is still unresolved pain or confusion. When a man is over his ex, he is able to be fully present in the relationship and engage with his partner in an authentic way. He will be able to share his hopes, dreams, and fears without the constant comparison to a past that no longer defines him. When a man no longer brings up his ex, it shows that he is emotionally free. He has healed from the past, let go of any lingering attachments, and is ready to move forward with someone new. This is not to say that the past has no significance. Every relationship shapes a person in some way, but when a man is truly over his ex, he will not let those past experiences dominate his present life. He will be ready to invest in the new relationship, to build something special with his current partner, and to leave the past where it belongs behind him. When a man is truly over his ex, he will no longer idealize the relationship or hold on to the notion that things could have turned out differently. Often when people are still emotionally tied to their past relationships, they can develop a distorted view of what those relationships were like. They may glorify the good moments, ignore the bad, or tell themselves that the relationship ended for reasons beyond their control. This idealization of the past is a coping mechanism that helps them deal with the pain of the breakup. However, when a man is completely over his ex, he will have let go of these unrealistic ideals and accepted the truth of the relationship for what it was. When a man idealizes his ex, it shows that he is not fully ready to move on. He will no longer see his past relationship through rose-colored glasses, reminiscing only about the fun moments or the things he liked about his ex. Instead, he will have a more balanced, realistic view of what that relationship was like. He will acknowledge the reasons it ended, whether it was due to incompatibility, lack of communication, or other factors. This recognition is essential for emotional growth and healing. It shows that he has processed the relationship and is no longer hung up on the idea of what it could have been. A man who is still idealizing his ex will often hold on to the fantasy that they were meant to be, or that if things had played out differently, they would still be together. He might compare every new person he meets to an idealized version of his ex, making it impossible for him to fully invest in a new relationship. When he is truly over his ex, he will have let go of the need for that fantasy. He understands that relationships are complex and no one is perfect. The past is behind him, and he has accepted that his ex was not the ideal partner he may have once imagined her to be. He will stop placing her on a pedestal or holding on to the hope of what could have been, which opens up space for him to focus on the present and future. His view of the past relationship will be rooted in reality, allowing him to learn from the experience without being emotionally burdened by it. When a man is over his ex, he will stop comparing his new partner to his past relationship. This is often a sign that someone is still holding on to their ex. They begin measuring every new partner against their former flame, looking for similarities or differences that ultimately detract from the potential of the new relationship. A man who has truly moved on will have let go of these comparisons because he recognizes that no relationship is the same. He understands that his new partner is an individual with her own unique qualities, and it's unfair to both her and himself to constantly compare her to someone from his past. When he stops comparing, it shows that he is open to seeing her for who she is, not through the lens of someone else. This openness is essential for building a healthy, new connection based on mutual respect and understanding. A man who has let go of his ex will also stop talking about her in a way that indicates unresolved feelings. If he continues to speak about her frequently, especially in a positive or wistful manner, it's a sign that he has not fully let go. A man who is truly over his ex will not use her as a topic of conversation unless it is in a very neutral or factual way, and even then, it will be brief and relevant to the conversation at hand. He will have processed his feelings, and while he may acknowledge the past when necessary, he will no longer let it consume his thoughts or conversations. He may be holding on to the idea of what the relationship was supposed to be rather than accepting that it ended for a reason. By continuing to hold on to these fantasies or unrealistic views of the past, he remains emotionally stuck. But when he's truly over his ex, he will have come to terms with the fact that the relationship was not perfect and it's okay that it ended. This acceptance is freeing as it allows him to focus on what truly matters, the present and future. A man who is not idealizing his ex can finally put his emotional energy into building something real with his new partner without being weighed down by the baggage of a past that no longer serves him. A man who is over his ex will no longer be emotionally affected by the mention of her name or the memory of their past together. In the early stages of moving on, it's normal for someone to feel a twinge of discomfort or sadness when their ex is brought up in conversation, whether by friends, family, or even in passing. Those emotional triggers are often a sign that the person is still emotionally attached to the past and hasn't fully healed. However, a man who has truly moved on will not be emotionally disturbed by the mention of his ex. He will have reached a place of emotional stability where the past no longer holds power over his emotions. When someone is still emotionally attached to their ex, they might feel a sense of anger, sadness, or jealousy whenever her name comes up. This is a sign that there are still unresolved emotions or lingering feelings that haven't been fully processed. It could be that he's still angry about the way the relationship ended, or perhaps there are feelings of regret or hurt that have not been addressed. These unresolved emotions often keep a person emotionally tied to their ex, making it difficult for them to move on and be fully present in a new relationship. A man who is still emotionally attached may react defensively when his ex is mentioned, or he may try to avoid the topic altogether because it triggers feelings he's not ready to confront. When a man is truly over his ex, he will be able to respond to the mention of her name with calmness and neutrality. He may acknowledge that they had a history together, but it won't affect him the way it once did. He will have come to terms with the end of the relationship and no longer feel the need to defend or justify what happened. He understands that the past is in the past and it has no bearing on his present or future. His ability to remain unaffected by the mention of his ex shows emotional maturity and a clear understanding that the end of that relationship doesn't define him. He is secure in who he is, and he doesn't need to react emotionally to the past. This ability to remain unaffected by the mention of his ex is also a sign that he has fully processed his feelings and is no longer holding on to any anger, guilt, or resentment. These emotions are often what keep a person stuck in the past, preventing them from moving forward. When a man has worked through his emotions, whether through self-reflection, therapy, or simply time and experience, he will no longer feel any emotional charge when his ex comes up in conversation. He may even be able to speak about her in a neutral or even positive way if the situation calls for it, but it won't stir up any lingering feelings of attachment or hurt. A man who is over his ex will also stop using her as a measuring stick for his new partner. In the early stages of a breakup, it's common for someone to compare their new partner to their ex, whether they are consciously aware of it or not. These comparisons can be subtle. He might think his new partner is not as funny, attractive, or easygoing as his ex, or he might catch himself looking for certain traits that reminded him of her. These thoughts are a sign that he is still emotionally tethered to the past. Once a man has truly let go of his ex, he will no longer feel the need to compare his new partner to her. He will be able to appreciate his new partner for who she is without any reference to the past. This shift in mindset is essential for building a healthy and successful new relationship because it allows him to be fully present and focused on the person in front of him, rather than carrying the weight of a previous relationship into something new. A man who is emotionally over his ex will also feel free to embrace new experiences, relationships, and opportunities without being haunted by the ghost of the past. He will no longer be afraid of making the same mistakes or repeating patterns from the previous relationship. He will recognize that every relationship is a learning experience, and he will approach new connections with an open heart and mind, free from the fear of emotional baggage. He will have gained wisdom from his past relationship, but will not allow it to dictate how he behaves or how he shows up in his new life. The ability to remain emotionally unaffected by the mention of his ex signifies a major shift in his emotional state. It is a sign that he has moved on, healed, and is ready to invest emotionally in the present without being weighed down by the past. It's not about forgetting his ex or erasing the history they shared. It's about accepting the reality of that history and recognizing that it no longer has a hold on him. This emotional freedom allows him to open himself up to new relationships, new experiences, and a future that is not defined by the past. A man who is over his ex will stop engaging in behaviors that show he is still emotionally attached to her. These behaviors can be subtle, but they are often clear indicators that someone has not fully let go of a past relationship. For instance, he may find himself frequently checking up on her through social media or asking mutual friends about her life. Even if he insists that he's moved on, these actions suggest that he is still emotionally invested and curious about her life. This constant monitoring of his ex's life shows that he has not fully detached from her, as he is still seeking to know how she's doing, what she's up to, or whether she's moved on herself. These behaviors often stem from a place of insecurity, fear of being forgotten, or a desire to keep tabs on someone who was once a significant part of his life. The need to know what she's doing or who she's spending time with is an indicator that he has not fully severed the emotional connection and is still invested in her life. When a man is over his ex, he will no longer feel the need to keep track of her or check in on her life. He will have accepted that the relationship is over, and his focus will shift to his own life and the people around him. He won't feel the need to look for signs of her happiness or gauge her emotional state. A man who has truly moved on will understand that his ex's life no longer holds any bearing on his own, and he will respect the fact that they have both moved on to different chapters in their lives. This change in behavior is crucial because it shows that he is no longer emotionally attached and is now able to focus his attention elsewhere without looking back. A man who is over his ex will stop holding on to material things that remind him of her. This could include gifts, photos, or items that hold sentimental value from the time they spent together. In the aftermath of a breakup, it's common for people to hold on to these things as they serve as physical reminders of a relationship that once was. A man who is still emotionally attached might keep a picture of his ex on his phone, wear a piece of jewelry she gave him, or hold on to items that were significant to their time together. These items are often a source of comfort and a way to keep the memories alive. However, a man who has truly moved on will have no need to keep such reminders. He will recognize that holding on to these objects prevents him from moving forward and fully embracing the present. By letting go of these physical reminders, he symbolically lets go of the emotional ties to the past and creates space for new experiences and relationships. A man who is no longer emotionally attached to his ex will also be able to make decisions without being influenced by her opinions or presence. In a relationship, partners often share common values and opinions, which can influence the decisions they make. After a breakup, it's natural for someone to still subconsciously carry these influences with them, especially if they spent a lot of time together. A man who is still emotionally invested may still make decisions based on what he thinks his ex would want or what he believes would have made her happy, these decisions may not always align with his own desires or needs, but he feels an unconscious pull to consider her perspective, even if she is no longer a part of his life. When a man is truly over his ex, he will no longer let her influence his decisions. He will begin to trust his own judgment and make choices that align with his own values and priorities. He will recognize that he is no longer accountable to his ex and her opinions no longer hold weight in his life. This newfound autonomy is a powerful sign that he has moved on and is no longer emotionally entangled with his past relationship. It is a sign of growth and independence as he learns to trust himself and prioritize his own happiness. A man who is over his ex will no longer feel the need to emotionally invest in her well-being. During a relationship, it's natural to care deeply about the other person's happiness and emotional state. However, after the relationship ends, a man who is still emotionally attached may continue to feel a sense of responsibility or guilt about his ex's well-being. He might find himself checking in on her, worrying about her, or feeling concerned about how she is coping with the breakup. This emotional investment can prevent him from fully moving on because it keeps him tied to her emotional world. But when he is truly over his ex, he will no longer feel responsible for her emotional state. He will acknowledge that she is capable of taking care of herself, just as he is, and he will no longer feel the need to intervene or offer support. This is an essential step in moving forward as it signifies that he has stopped viewing her as a part of his emotional landscape and is no longer emotionally responsible for her. A man who has truly moved on from his ex will have freed himself from the emotional bonds that once tied him to her. He will no longer engage in behaviors that keep him tethered to the past, and he will embrace his life as it is now. This shift in behavior is a clear indicator that he is emotionally available for new experiences and relationships. He has made peace with the past, and his focus is now on his own growth and happiness. You can tell he's over his ex when he speaks of the past without bitterness or longing, showing he's made peace with it. If he doesn't compare you to her or bring her into your relationship, it's a strong sign he's moved on. When his focus is on building a future with you rather than revisiting old memories, his heart is in the present. If he has healthy boundaries and no hidden attachments to her, it means closure has been found. And most importantly, when his love, time, and energy are fully invested in you, it's clear his past no longer holds him.